Hey everyone, I just wanted to do an update to the Aura Stacker from the video we released last week. It's in a much better state than it was when I posted the budget version. I would call this an intermediate version of the build, as there's still a lot of improvement to go from here. However, as I'll explain later on in the video, I don't think we're going to continue investing in it from here, as there are kind of other things I want to play, and I feel that this build experiences diminishing returns as you continue to invest in it when you get to about this point. Unlike the older iteration, the heist era Aura Stacker, where the more you invest in it, the DPS climbs exponentially, and it just keeps getting better and better. So just to run everyone through where we're at the moment, we're at about an 80 to 90 exalt budget now. So a significant amount more than the budget version. However, we're sitting at 6.5 million DPS, 4.2k ES, and over 70% physical damage reduction, which is kind of really huge for an Aura Stacker in the current patch. I'll basically run us through. I'll just go straight into the item changes so that we can sort of see where we're at and what we've done differently. So to start off with, I crafted a helm. Now, the BIS helm would be an Archdemon Crown base. However, I chose to just use a Hubris Circlet because of the cost of getting an Archdemon Crown base at the time that I made the helm. The process for making this helm was simply getting elevated reservation of skills and then sliming it with global crit strike multi. These are Redeemer and Warlord mods, as you can see. The crit strike multi didn't have to be elevated, unlike the reduced reservation of skills. Then once it was slammed together, we could wipe prefixes, do an Ashling slam for the +2 level of socketed AoE gems, which is necessary because your purities need to hit level 23. And then we just crafted on %ES to juice up our ES. Next off, we have our Amulet. So I decided that the Simplex Amulet probably wasn't the right way to go, and I discovered that this synthesized base is actually really high value for money. So you can get this synthesized base, which gives you 5% reduced reservation of skills right off the bat. And the really good part about that is you can essence spam it, as you can see we have done with crit multi-essences. So that's where we have our 2-3 crit multi, due to Screaming Essence spam. You can just spam it with crit multi-essences, and then every single roll you're basically getting reservation of skills plus crit multi, instead of having to, say, awaken slime them together. In addition to that, you can just keep doing that till you hit tier 1 flat energy shield, which is what we've done here, and then you can craft on % energy shield. And this is a really, really nice way to sort of get access to a higher energy shield amount in your build without compromising on other things. And because of the particular setup we're running, I realized we didn't really need Vitality or Clarity from the Awakener Slime either. So this was kind of a no-brainer to just go this way. And then you can do defense catalysts on it to boost up the double energy shield rolls. Really high value for money going this way. And the base only costs about 5x, which means it's pretty on par with Conqueror Exalt sliming a Simplex Amulet and then Awakener sliming the item. So moving up from that, we now went for a +3 or a +4, depending how you look at it, Hands of the High Templar. Now the logic here is that we can get a very high level Smite, very high level Discipline. Now the benefit of getting very high level Discipline is because that's where the massive increase to Energy Shield has come from. We end up with level 28 Discipline by basically getting level 4 in power with a +1 to boost it to level 5, and that then adds 4 levels to Discipline on its own. And in addition to the Hands of the High Templar, adds 3 levels to the Discipline as well. So you end up with level 28 Discipline, which gives you almost 300 base energy shield. Through Aura Effect, that gets multiplied all the way up to about 900 energy shield, and then through your Intellect, it gets boosted, I believe, another 60%. So you get a lot of energy shield just through doing this, and then obviously your Smite is giving you a really high amount of increased added lightning damage, and then that's multiplied by 3 as well once we use it. So you get a huge amount of extra damage doing this particular trick. You can go further and go for Ellie weakness on hit, curse, and I believe you could get even +5 setups on the gloves, but they start to cost around 25x. It was way too expensive for the level of budget I was aiming for, so we decided not to do that. Now, I think the last major other upgrade we made to the build was going for a Fire Damage Dispels Nebulous. These are very, very cheap. I was actually really surprised at how cheap they were. Mine costed 1x, but that's because it had perfect increased cold and increased lightning damage rolls on the base of the item. But the actual fire damage dispels implicit on Nebulous is, I think you can still pick it up at about 10c. And the reason why this isn't really important is because it saves us a jewel slot for our Cinder Swallow. The fire damage dispels activates our Cinder Swallow Ignite without us having to give up a jewel slot for this. Now, a lot of other people were going for fire damage via the Call of the Brotherhood corruption. This was costing 10x, and I don't think this was the way to go at all, considering you can pick it up from here. Of course, in a highly min-maxed setup, you're probably going to want like double damage crit multi implicits on your Nebulas, but at that point you're looking at spending multiple mirrors on your build anyway, so you're not really fussed spending 10x on a Call of the Brotherhood. Now let's look at the tree. So the main change we made to the tree was dropping this 4th cluster setup. Part of the reason we dropped the 4th cluster setup and then moved to this was because it allows us to then spend extra points on jewel sockets and other things. So I spent 3 points to pick up an extra stack of intensity to go with pinpoint support. This is really good boss damage, basically. So pinpoint, as you can see, is giving 30% more projectile damage with hits per intensity. So now this is giving us 120% more projectile damage with hits when you're at 4 intensity against bosses, which is pretty huge. Additionally to that, the other sort of like tech we've added to the build is the enduring composure thing. I do this in a lot of my builds nowadays, but it was worthwhile doing here as well. Having the endurance charges consistently, even despite having a headhunter, is a real big part of how we hit, having over 70% physical damage reduction, and it adds a crazy amount of tankiness to our build, right? It goes very well with Basalt Flask and all the other tools that we're using to buff our defenses. Now, other than that, all the medium clusters are pretty much the same as the other video, and to compensate for having to run 2 sets of voices, I've decided to run a set of a single min-maxed large cluster that's running Vengeful Commander and Snowstorm. This, I believe, cost 4x off the top of my head, but it was a worthwhile price to pay considering I only had to get one of them. We're still using the same Watcher's Eye. And now the other thing was that you'll probably notice that we dropped the Malagara's Restraint, so obviously we have to pick up crit multi from other sources. Now a lot of people were making the mistake of trying to get jewels that had hybrid, like, Reservation of Skills plus crit multi. Because we picked up all the stuff here for the Reservation of Skills, and we also have dropped haste from, we've dropped Grace from our setup, we can basically get by on a lower amount of mana reservation, and that allows us to just pick up triple crit multi jewels, which were fairly cheap. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think they were around 2 to 3x each. They don't have anything else on them, so they don't have Energy Shield, they don't have Reservation of Skills, but you can just, I think we pick up 4 of them all up, and it's just worth doing because it's bringing us to, let me just check. So 363% crit multi, which is more than the Malagara's Restraint had, which means we're getting more damage, but then still being able to run the Hands of the High Templar to get the really large amounts of Energy Shield from Discipline, right? So this is pretty much the core of the changes I made to the build. There's not much else really to talk about. This is just, I think, especially with the Hands of the High Templar and the Amulet, I think this is just the most efficient way to spend 80 to 90 exalts on this particular build. Comparing this version of the build to all the other ones on PoE Ninja, I'd say most of the people who are reaching this level of damage and damage reduction and whatnot are probably spending close to a mirror at this point to get where they're going. So to be able to put this together on 80 to 90x, I think is really, really solid. And there's still room to take it further, of course. There are, in fact, a lot of things we can do beyond this, but I'm not really going to talk about that much. So I'm going to talk about why I'm not going to take this build any further, and that basically comes down to the fact that as much as I really love Aura Stacker, and I have a lot of fond memories of it, and I think it really held a special place within the meta in that it was a build you could keep putting money into and keep seeing improvements out of. It was just like this, it provided a lot of motivation for people who were sort of grinding along in the end game, because whenever they got money, they could just buy an upgrade to this build, and it had an endless amount of upgrades to get, and you could always see improvement either to your survivability, to your utility and quality of life, or to your damage. And I thought that was really good and really healthy for the game. However, it was overtuned, and being honest, I think currently it's actually undertuned. I wanted to convince myself this was a really good build still, but the truth is that at any level of investment, any other build is going to perform even better than this. So for sure, having 70% damage reduction on 4,000 Energy Shield, that sounds great. That really does sound great. But that's not the full picture, right? This is a very slow build, and as a result of not moving fast, it gets hit by a lot more abilities compared to what a lot of other builds get. It relies heavily on the Headhunter in order to speed up and get a good pace going in a map, and I don't really think that's healthy. I had to swap out Leap Slam for Flame Dash because Leap Slam was just feeling too clunky for me, and even swapping to Flame Dash didn't alleviate all the problems. It's just, overall, most other builds do its job better than what Aura Stacker does. To be honest, I actually think in its current state, Aura Stacker could stand to be buffed, especially considering this is probably the most min-maxed Aura Stacker from a budget perspective in the current league right now. I've looked at every single other Aura Stacker profile, and I'm very confident in saying this is the best Aura Stacker you can get on 80 to 90x. The problem is that even saying that, this build as it is not better than pretty much any other build I could put together for 80 to 90x. And I think that really puts this as a solid B tier build, right? It's a real shame, but it is what it is. And for those who haven't been hanging out in my stream, I'm sort of interested in doing custom crit Ice Nova at the moment. I have an Ice Nova character that is about mid-level 80s, and it's coming along nicely. I'm probably going to be playing that for the next week or two. And ultimately, I decided I wanted to just sort of finish this character off, do a nice send-off video, which is what you're watching now, and then I could sell off a lot of its gear and pump it into the Ice Nova character, which I felt was probably going to have like a better cost to performance ratio than what this build has. This isn't the worst. I think if you enjoy the Aura Stacker playstyle, if you enjoy Spark, if you enjoy any aspect of this, then this could still be up your alley, and it could still be worth doing for sure. But I don't want to bait people into playing something that ultimately they're going to have a bad time on. And I feel like that's what's going to happen if I tell people that they should copy what I've done here. Even though it was very min-maxed, it's still... The reality is any other top 30 skill is going to perform better on an 80 to 90x budget. So that's just where we're at. After making this video, I'm just going to sell off the rest of my gear at this point, or reuse it on the other character. And it was a fun process to go through. I can now confidently, say that I think Aura Stacker, it's not dead, but it's kind of dead, right? And I definitely won't feel compelled to build another Aura Stacker anytime soon unless it sees significant buffs in the future. But, it was a worthwhile experience for sure, and I hope that there's some people out there who do enjoy Aura Stacker still that are going to watch this video and be able to sort of figure out better ways to build it based off the things that I showed that you can do, particularly getting the synthesized Amulet and also getting the fire damage off the Nebulos, in addition to these triple crit multi-jewels that don't have other things such as ES and reservation of skills. Like, we saved about 30 to 40x on the jewels by going for this budget route of just stacking crit multi on jewels and nothing else. We saved 10x on the Nebulos, and then we saved an immeasurable amount of money doing the Amulet the way we did. So, immeasurable in the sense that it's kind of hard to tell with the reservation and all the other things it gives and save. It's hard to tell what a gem slot is worth. So yeah, that's where we're at. Thanks for watching if you've stuck along this long through the video. But yeah, that's me. That's the Aura Stacker done. And I'll catch us around. I will continue to be streaming every night at the same time. I'll post the times in the description of the video. I'm also going to put the POB for this character in the description of the video as well, and the stream link. I hope to catch you all there, and give me a like and subscribe if you like this video. Have a good one.